Testing one, two. Testing one, two. All right, now let's see if that does anything. Testing one, two. Testing one, two. Yep, that got it. All right, now let's see if that does anything. Thank you. Alrighty, I'm not sure why this is doing this, but hopefully we can get through this broadcast. So we're off to a kind of a weird start. Thank you everybody for coming on, and I'm going to try once again to present what I had planned last night. Now, some interesting things happened since last night, and I've included them in here. So let us, now that we've got, at least for now, things under control, let me find the next thing here. And here we go. Now, what started all this mess is this um, thing that was put up by Timmy over on his um, blog and his um, BitChute channel. And he seemed to make a big thing about the fact that he was interviewed on the Trump rally protest area. And they kind of went off. And their big um, target was the woman in the upper right hand corner. Now, for some reason, they seemed to think that um, they had the right to intrude on this relatively small group of Trump protesters that were gathered. There were dozens of booths and stuff set up that were pro Trump, and that would have been fine. Why he bothered to show up and intrude upon these anti Trump protester is a question I guess we are all going to have to answer. But for the time being, let's get to this. Now, for some strange reason, um, the crazy Canadian decided to call the city of Rapid City and find out if there had been a rally. And she posted this article on the Holmes's blog. Either she or the person known as PWS Builder posted this, but since she made the call, she's at the center of this issue. Now, she mentioned this Kurt Bechtel, and I've left his number to the department where she should have called. I don't know if she called this number or not, but Mr. Bechtel works for this um, agency. This is the Building Services Division. Um, they handle programs and functions related to building and development in Rapid City, including plans, examination, building code enforcement, building permitting, inspections, air quality permitting, and staff support for the Building Code of Appeals and Air Quality Board. Now, it is true, in fact, that Mr. Bechtel did not hand out any permits regarding the Trump protest. But, and this is something that either Alex Kugelberg did not mention or she didn't bother to find out. But this is the department that handles the permit that Alex was researching. This is the Parks and Recreation Department that handles these permits because the Trump rally, protests, and gatherings took place at a city park. And it states right here that it is the Parks and Recreation Department that handles these events. And the reason they have the groups get a permit is so that primarily they have $2 million in liability insurance in order to cover any injuries or property damages and so forth that occurs on city property. This is done in virtually every city in the United States. Orlando has this system set up as well as other cities. Why the crazy Canadian couldn't find this out is anybody's guess. But here we are. Now, let's see, I got to find while you guys are studying this. If Alex had bothered to check, she would have found out that it was this woman and her organization that applied for and received a permit. And the woman that was seen in the picture behind Tim Homeseth that they're all going after to try and identify is a member of this group. And these people are local South Dakotans in Rapid City that were demonstrating against Trump. They are not a FBI terrorist group. They're not out to harm anybody. They are simply exercising their First Amendment rights to protest Mr. Trump. They disagree with his issues. This woman, as a matter of fact, was a Republican candidate for office. She lost, but she is a Republican. And many of the members of this particular group are Republican. South Dakota is a primarily Republican state. It is considered a red state. So, this accusation that was made by Timothy Charles Homeseth and his cult is absolutely false. And again, this is the application process that she went through to get permission to have a public gathering at this park. Now, you notice that she had to complete an application and submit it to the department 90 days prior to the date of the event, which she did. It's a matter of public record. The crazy Canadian can call the proper department and get a copy of the permit, or at least the information that she took out the permit. Because of the personal information that is on the permit, I could not get a copy of it. But I did confirm with this department in the city of Rapid City, South Dakota, that they did in fact issue a permit. And I highly doubt we are going to see a correction by Mr. Homeseth in this regard. It's just the way he is. Now, again, this is the two different departments, so you can see that the Building Services Division administers buildings and developments. They do not issue protest permits or any kind of rally permits or anything like that. That is done by the Park and Recreation Department. Now, this is a simple matter that the so called investigative reporter and his staff, could have easily found this out. Why they didn't, you have to answer that for yourself because it is there. Um, so, now, Number 9. I had these things set up in order, so it didn't post to the. All right, I don't know what happened to number 9. 13 new scene, last new scene, 6, 7, 8. All right, well, we'll just skip over to 10. All right, now, if you look down at the bottom of this particular slide on the left, you see that IBT over on Telegram said, "Tell the truth, Mert." Well, I did. This man is a reporter for a local TV station, not in Texas, by the way, but in Rapid City, South Dakota. This is a local TV station. So this is Dan Centella. Dan Centella did not interview Timothy Charles Homseth. And this is what I was going to point out last night. But it gave them time to correct their error. Now, this is Luke that interviewed Tim Homseth. And there was an interview between Dan and Luke on the local station after he had done the interview. And this was brought out because, or, okay, lost my train of thought a little bit. But what happened here was that Luke had interviewed Tim Homseth. It was Luke Beasley that interviewed Tom Homseth. Now, Tim Homseth claims that a CBS camera was the cameraman. Well, if that's the case, why didn't Tim Homseth show the CBS camera? Why was the only thing shown was Luke Beasley at the rally? Now, I have not been able to contact Luke Beasley to find out who the cameraman was. Was it a CBS camera, or is it someone that goes around with him when he does his interviews? He has a individual, I understand, that will go around with him and photograph his interviews. He has a YouTube channel, has all the information on who he is and what he does. You can go over to Luke Beasley on YouTube and watch his videos. And I would suggest you do that because it's a rather interesting interview. Now, this woman, Alexandra Kukanakis, or however the hell you pronounce her name, decided to write to the uh, Ocala uh, court and give them some information. And what I'm doing right now is I forgot to put this up, so we're going to put it up now. But this is rather interesting. And she's been bragging about this all day. But her problem is, I already knew about this. I knew about this the 15th of July when this material hit Discovery. And why is this not coming on? Okay, let me save this. Okay. This part of the process always takes a few minutes because I have to do a lot of. But Alex, she decided to send this file to the Fifth District Court, which is the court where Neely Blanchard is going to be tried for the murder of Chris Hallett. And in discussions I've had with the state attorney's office, it would appear that Alexandra Cuckoo decided to put my name on this report. And the problem with that is, I don't think that Alexandra, or maybe Alexander, but I'll explain that one in a minute, decided that she would place this information with the state of Florida, not realizing that anything she submits to a court, law enforcement agency, so on and so forth, she is filing under oath. She is swearing that the information contained within that report is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. And in fact, the things she put in that submission are not true. Now, she didn't do this in the state of Tennessee. You know, this report wasn't in Tennessee or wasn't in Minnesota or in anywhere else in the United States. It was within 1 hour's drive from my residence here in the state of Florida. It takes me exactly an hour to go from Apopka, Florida to Ocala, Florida to personally sit down with the state attorney, not a paralegal, but the state attorney, and discussed this submission. And I have been instructed to go to my state attorney here in the Ninth District of the state of Florida and file a criminal complaint against this individual. And it does not matter that she lives in Canada. The United States and Canada has extradition agreements, which means that if a grand jury decides that this woman is guilty of a crime, she will be extradited to the state of Florida, city of Orlando, to stand trial. So stay tuned because the paperwork is being filled out and Miss Kuckelberg is going to wind up, more than likely, in the state of Florida. And what Alexander also does not understand is that there is a federal law regarding these things. And so the FBI office that is in a half hour from me, I have had discussions with, and that I will be visiting to talk to them about this situation, since these complaints were transmitted electronically in some cases. Uh, but in this case, I understand that Alexandra may have sent a zip drive, but she sent it through the mail. Now, doesn't matter if she transmitted it through the mail or if she put it on a zip drive. She broke the law. So, Mrs. Kugelberg may want to get herself a lawyer. Now, why did the FBI get involved? Well, there is this. They also wrote in their nice little blog over there, PW Builder, that Alvin Winston Sr. of the FBI has a secret file called Operation Chaos. Now, is this secret file something that Tim Holmseth or Alexandra or somebody else, maybe Randy, supplied to the FBI? Or is this just another lie off the top of these people's head? Because anybody that's been anybody on my live stream over the past 4 years would understand that what I did was take a sightseeing tour. I went up to Minneapolis, I went over to Plum City, filmed where Phil McConnell had his broadcast studio at one time. I went to Timmy's house, I went to Timmy's former employer, I went to the police department up there to talk to Timmy. Because remember, Tim Holmseth was a fugitive from justice. He had a misdemeanor warrant at that time. And so, as a fugitive from justice, it's a matter of public interest. And as a matter of public interest, I went up to um, Minnesota, Wisconsin, and South Dakota and North Dakota to investigate this situation. And I announced this to everybody. I told them why I named it Operation Chaos, and everybody understood. But these yo-yos decided to make a big conspiracy theory out of it, and they have been sending these reports, if you want to call them that, to federal authorities and the federal courts for quite some time. Again, under oath, because anything you submit to a court or law enforcement accusing somebody of something is under oath. It's on a little, you know, it's right there. You go to the website and you look up the stuff. They're going to say that anything you say, you are stating under oath. So they're committing perjury and they're also committing a crime. So they have to answer for that. And that's what's going on. So this, in essence, is to what has been happening here. Now, the one thing I'm wondering at this point, when it comes to Ms. Kugabanda, because remember, they keep saying that I'm Whitey Bulger. They keep saying that I look like Whitey Bulger. And this has been going on for quite a long time. There's article after article after article on Tim Holmes's social media. IBT, aka Alexandra Cuckoo has been claiming this on her website, and this is also in all these reports in there. Now, the discovery regarding Miss Cuckoo and this nefarious network um, accusation that she made is going to be sent to me by the end of the week. And when it gets here, I am going to put on a special broadcast, and we are going to see how I got mentioned by Mrs. Kugelberg or Mr. or Ms. Kugelberg in regards to the Neely Blanchard case. Because what is happening here, uh, this woman is determined, currently a woman, um, is joining Tim Holmseth, stating that I am somehow interfering with that case. This is the gist of it. They've done it already. These people claim that Neely Blanchard is not, in fact, guilty of murdering Chris Hallett, in spite of the fact that there were two eyewitnesses that watched and heard the whole thing. And Neely basically confessed to the crime. Neely is going to be pleading innocent by reason of temporary insanity. They are going to admit in court through the defense that Neely Blanchard, in fact, murdered Chris Hallett. But their contention is that she was temporarily insane. Now, this same individual claims that I'm Whitey Bulger. Doesn't say maybe he's Whitey Bulger or he looks like Whitey Bulger. She claims that I am Whitey Bulger. Now, what's interesting about this is for being a woman, she has rather masculine features. So, is she a former she or a former he? That's up to you guys to determine. I'm not an, an anatomy expert. I'm not an expert in uh, a female anatomy and sex changes and all this other stuff. But it just seems rather interesting that Alexandra looks more like an Alexander than Alexandra. And another thing to notice here is that uh, she likes taking pictures of himself, consuming alcohol. Now, is the reason she does some of this stuff on the internet due to the fact that she may be an abuser of alcohol like Tim Holmesett used to be? I don't know. I'm just asking a question here. But we have rather strange things being posted on the internet in regards to me and other people. And it's like, are these people of sound mind? Are they mentally disturbed? Because what sane person would be saying what they are saying on there? Good thing, good thing to ask. So I appreciate everybody tuning in. At least I think that for once the software worked the way it was supposed to. So you got, you got to wonder. Yeah, there's some interesting thing about this that makes you got to kind of wonder because I know a lot of European women, especially from Greece, Italy, um, and so forth. And very few of them have these kind of features. Um, and I've also seen transvestites, which is what this would be, and I've noticed that there's a possibility that she is, in fact. Now, as for that question, it's entirely possible Now, this is not the first time my name has been brought up in a ongoing trial. This happened back in the Casey Anthony days, but I was never called. Some idiot did the same thing and put stuff in the discovery and made a big deal about it, but it was not used. And I don't know if they will use anything in the uh, Blanchard trial. If they do, I will go into court and I will testify. But these people don't understand that in the state of Florida, I have rights, especially when it comes to this kind of material being introduced in court by a foreign agent. Now, I've called Cuckoo Bird this before, and she denied it. But if you look up the definition of agent, she's an agent. If you look up foreign agent, she's an agent because she is a citizen of Canada. She does not reside in the United States. She does not have a uh, visa to be in the United States. She does not have residence in the United States. And as far as I know, she has never been to the United States. But since she is acting as an agent for Timothy Charles Homeseth and the PPTF, who they claim has some kind of function associated to Mr. Trump, excuse me, and to the Pentagon, makes her a foreign agent. She or he or it is working on the behalf of an organization in the United States. She is a foreign national. That makes her a foreign agent. That's the definition of a foreign agent. People are free to look it up. But Alexandra cannot vote in the United States because she's not a United States citizen. She's not a naturalized United States citizen. She has nothing that would entitle her to vote in any election, local, national. So she's interfering with the politics of a foreign country. It's the same as if I went up there and interfered with Canadian politics. Canada has their own problems. They have their own way of doing things. So if she wants to complain about Canada, stick to Canada. You know, all these foreigners that are getting involved in politics in this country is, muddying the waters. But you can't talk common sense into these people because when they start talking about fish people and lizard people and clones and reincarnated sons of former presidents and this sort of thing, this is the nonsense you run into. But, you know, this is the kind of nonsense that gets them in trouble because, again, they went to the wrong party. They called up the building code department. Now, this woman is supposed to operate a business, yet she doesn't understand about zoning, building codes, building permits, and what the difference is between obtaining a permit for a building and a permit to have a gathering in a public park. Apparently, they don't do that in Canada. Canada basically doesn't have permits for people who gather in a park for whatever reason, whether it be a concert, somebody making a speech like Preacher Dan does. But because the principal reason that these kind of permits are set up is for insurance purposes. So that if the protesters go berserk and start smashing windows or ruining trees or digging up the lawn, the liability insurance that is covered through this permit will pay for these damages. But no, Alexandra doesn't call the right department, the Parks and Recreation. It took me exactly 5 minutes to figure out who issues permits for gatherings in the city of Rapid City. You can Google it, ask the question, and it comes up. Department of Parks and Recreation issues the permits. Alexander did not call the Parks and Recreation Department. She called the building department, and that ridiculous phone call. Found out, guy says, "Oh, we didn't issue a permit." She got the answer she wanted, didn't go any further. If she had gone further, if she had done her homework in the first place, because she's supposed to be the official researcher for Tim Olmsted, she would have found out that she had the wrong department. And this is not the first time she's done this. Now, how many of you remember back when I was getting discovery from the court? That Alexandra had called up, and this, again, this is Alexandra, called up the Marion County Courthouse, and the person she talked to said, "No, we haven't had any contact with William Murtaugh." Again, she called the wrong department. Now, the building is a combination. It's the county courthouse and also the Fifth Judicial Circuit Court, the same as Orange County. Orange County is the Orange County Courthouse, but it is also the Ninth Judicial Circuit Court. This is the way courts work in larger cities in Orlando. They put everything into a building, county and state, because sometimes Orange County may make an arrest in something, it goes to the state of Florida to be prosecuted. And I noticed the spelling error. Oh, darn. But, you know, this is where they all fall apart. Because they are not doing their homework. They're not double checking their sources. See, this is where they have a weakness. Is that they will go to a source, get the answer they want, and then report it. But if their source is not the right source or an accurate source or an honest source, then the information that they are giving out is crap. It's garbage in, garbage out. Now, a professional journalist, reporter, like Tim Holmseth claims to be, would have double checked his facts. And if he had double checked his facts, he would have found out that A, there was a permit that was granted in the city in South Dakota for that demonstration, that it was a local group that that obtained the permit, and they would have found out the name of the group. Easy peasy. I am not a professional journalist. I'm a guy that runs a blog, but I know how to pick up a phone and make a call and find out who is the legitimate source of information for anything that I'm trying to find out. I don't guess. I don't get the wrong answer from the wrong people and say, go with it. Because somebody can come in behind me and say, Mert, you got it wrong. It's not the building department you call, it's the Department of Parks and Recreation. So there you go. And Tim Holseth does this all the time. He finds a source, takes their information, says it's true, but if he had done his homework properly, he would have found out that he had bad information. He did it in the murder case up in, what was it, Wisconsin or something? I don't know. The George Floyd thing in Illinois. TV station made a report. Tim Homestead ran with it. It turned out to be a hoax. I called the station. They said, no, we didn't say that. Somebody's impersonating us. And it was only after I found the information out that Homestead came in and corrected himself. He said, oh, I got fooled. Yeah, because you didn't do your damn homework. It was an obvious hoax and he fell for it. But, you can't, if you are going to be a professional journalist or a war correspondent, act like it. He may be a journalist. He got that little yellow thing and he got an award and all this over a decade ago, but he is not a competent journalist and he certainly is not an honest journalist. If anything, he'd be better off going to the Weekly World News, the Globe, or the National Enquirer because he puts out that kind of crap. Yeah, you're right. He's a joke. Yeah, he goes and he says he's a war correspondent, which pissed off a group of actual war correspondents. They're still mad at him, and they don't even want to hear his name. That's disrespect. That is stolen valor in a way. But this is Tim Holmes says. This is the self glorification, excuse me, of Timothy Charles Holmes said. He has to be important. He has to be legitimate. He has to be special. He has to be famous. And he has these enablers. And what they do is they say, fine, you want to be an important guy? We'll get in behind you. We're going to set up all kinds of charities because we're going to make all kinds of money off Tim Homestead. He's got no less than 12 revenue streams that are based on his claim that he has one man from the former president that he claims to have broken all these things like the finders and uh, all these crimes out there. He solved all this stuff and none a damn thing. He's just copied stuff that people have written. And this woman here is his enabler. She goes along with it. I can't believe that that woman is that stupid to believe all this stuff that Tim Holmesat claims. But apparently she is because she repeats all this stuff. This Whitey Bulger stuff. Yeah. She created it or somebody created it that she knows and they ran with it. Now they're saying that my name's not real. Apparently nobody has ever bothered to check with the state of New York where I was born. Elmira, New York. I was born at St. Joseph's Hospital in Elmira, New York on October 10th, 1950. And these things can be checked. They can find out the high school I went to, the junior high school, the elementary school, and even the Catholic school. For a brief period of time, I went to a Catholic school. And, well, his claim is that the FBI went out and got some poor innocent slob, threw him in a wheelchair, sent him down to that prison, put him in a cell, and got the guy that personally knew Whitey Bulger. to smash in the guy's skull with a padlock that was inside of a sock. Kind of sucked it to him, put a lock on the situation. And that I am supposed to be Whitey Bulger under witness protection, complete identity change, all of it. Which means if if you follow the logic, then that means that Tim Holmseth is stating that I was Whitey Bulger during the case of missing uh, Kaylee Anthony, Haley Cummings, and Trenton Duckett. Because I was live streaming in two of those cases and texting in the third. And here is Whitey Bulger, according to Tim Holmseth, on YouTube, broadcasting his whereabouts all over the place and having broadcast these whereabouts. Oh, yeah, we mustn't forget Delphi. But he's claiming that with my dealership and my truck, that I'm Whitey Bulger running around doing all this stuff. Now, what's amazing is Alex Goddard never found that out because Alex Goddard was bashing me over the head for 6 years or so, making all sorts of claims. And when she finally realized she went down the wrong road and that she was being played by radio, we had a big mea culpa, and now that we're allies. Because the truth is the truth is the truth. And eventually, some of these people are going to get it in their head. I don't think this woman will ever admit she was wrong. She will never admit that she was deceived. She's going to go to her grave believing that I'm Whitey Bulger, and she's going to believe all this crap that she's putting in court. And the problem for her is she asked if she cannot prove her accusations, and it comes out, which it will, that she has lied to law enforcement and to the courts in the United States, she is going to go to jail. Pure and simple. The law enforcement system and the court system is not a toy for her to play with. And doing the things that she is doing through the courts is against the law. It's a criminal act. It's a felony, multiple felonies. And someday the courts are going to get sick of it. They're going to say, "Look, enough is enough is enough. It's time for Alexandra Kougabaris to pay the piper. To come down here to Ocala, Florida, stand in front of a judge and prove her accusations. It's something she will never, ever be able to do because she's lying." Yeah, this is no joke. We have a woman that is in the Marion County Jail right now, awaiting trial in around 2 months for first degree murder with the use of a firearm. Premeditated, first degree murder. In the state of Florida, she is eligible for the electric chair or for lethal injection, whatever it is they're doing here now. Now, all they're trying to do in her case is to get her life in prison without parole in the worst case scenario. I would be very, very, very surprised if she was acquitted based on the evidence that's come out so far. But this is the state of Casey Anthony. So all bets are off. I never thought Casey Anthony would be acquitted of murder. Mountain of evidence against this woman. But because the child had been missing for over a month. She was under 4 feet of water. Predator, and animals got to the child, and there was nothing left. So they could not get evidence to prove that Casey Anthony murdered that child. The county medical examiner said it was homicide of undetermined means. And that conclusion, the jury was forced to acquit Casey Anthony. And so there was no justice for Kaylee Anthony. She was thrown out like a piece of garbage, and we don't know why. So the armchair detectives are going to say, well, maybe the grandfather did it, or maybe the mother did it, or maybe the brother did it, maybe the boyfriend did it, maybe ABCD did it, maybe I did it. I've been accused of it by Tim Holmseth. You know, in the case of Haley Cummings, Tim Holmseth claims that she's still alive. So I haven't been accused of murdering her yet. I'm accused of being a media spokesperson for a child trafficking operation. This is how, you know, and the only reason I did that is because I don't know why, actually. I don't know how the hell I got involved in this. Because when this first started up, I actually defended Tim Holmseth's right to have his opinion before I found out what an idiot this guy was and the torment that he was putting Kim Pacazio through. And once I found that out, I says, hey, I can't defend this guy. He's a nut. And then all of a sudden, here I am, media spokesperson for a child trafficking ring and pedophiles and these, I don't know, the ceremony that it was given and extracting this chemical and making diamonds out of babies, which is the absolute dumbest thing I've ever heard. You can't make diamonds out of people, for crying out loud. They come up with cloning. You can't clone a human being yet. That's decades, if not centuries in the future. We do not have the technology for that. Yet these morons over on the conspiracy channels believe all kinds of crap. There was a guy that Tim was familiar with that believed that there was a slave colony on Mars. And the only thing we've sent to Mars right now are toys. Not one human being has set foot on Mars. But these people believe this stuff. And NASA had to come out and deny it. Say, no, 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 no. We can't even get to Mars, let alone having slave colonies up there, for crying out loud. But people believed it because they're stupid. And this is what's going on now with this stuff. These people are the dumbest people on the face of the earth. They're idiots. Well, that's been the prevailing conclusion of many of us, that Casey did do it. Because there's a lot of circumstantial evidence. Key of the car was parked in an Amscott parking lot a mile from the grandparents' house for 3 days. It got towed to a tow yard down by the airport. The grandfather came, picked up the car, took it home. The mother, who is a nurse, recognized that it smelled like a human body. And there was a lot of circumstantial evidence. Believe me, they had a press conference where they showed the car and they had the trunk open, and that thing stank. I was 100 feet away from that car and I could still smell it. Stank to high heaven. So you are not going to tell me that Casey did not have a connection to that car, and that there's reason to suspect that she murdered the child. But because of a weakness in the investigation by the Orange County Sheriff's Department. They could not make the connection between her and Kaylee. And the jury basically said, no, we can't convict this woman beyond a reasonable doubt of the murder of that child. Can't do it. And so everything got thrown out except one charge of lying to the FBI or lying to law enforcement, and she got time served. So she is a convicted felon, but that's it. But I cannot understand why they're going down the road they're going down when it comes to these very important cases that involve children and also someone that they were supposed to have a friendly relationship with. But to sit there and say that Neely Blanchard did not kill Chris Hallett is insulting the man and it is insulting his family. Because by making a plea of innocent by reason of temporary insanity is an admission that Neely Blanchard killed Chris Hallett. Now, it's a long shot defense, what they're going for in this case. To say that Neely Blanchard was temporarily insane when she entered that house and in front of a woman and her daughter execute Chris Hallett. Nobody went to Phil McConnell's house, stole a gun, brought the gun back down to Ocala, Florida, somehow got in the house, murdered Chris Hallett, and pinned it on Neely Blanchard. That did not happen. That's what they're not arguing in court. They are arguing in court that Neely Blanchard was insane at the time that she murdered Chris Hallett. The defense is not making any of these arguments like they're saying on their blogs and their videos and all this stuff. The defense is saying that the woman was insane. They are not naming any other person in that case. They're not saying there was an outside party. They're not saying that there was an accomplice. They are saying that Neely Blanchard, in a state of insane rage, murdered Chris Hallett. That's a defense. It's not the prosecution. The prosecution saying she was perfectly sane, that she knew what she was doing, that she knew right from wrong. There was premeditation there. I mean, she got the gun and brought it to the house. She had it at the hotel in Ocala, 5 miles from the house, 2 days before she murdered Chris Hallett. I mean, there is a mountain of evidence. There's going to be more evidence than I'm going to be coming out with in a week or so. It's right there. She had a gun in her car that had the blood of Chris Hallett on the gun. It's in my video. And the jury's going to see this evidence. They're going to see the autopsy. They're going to see his dead body on the floor. I'm not allowed to publish it. And all this stuff. So if we have another Casey Anthony here because of something that the defense pulls a rabbit out of their hat, I'm going to be very, very surprised. I'm going to say, what in hell is going on with the justice department or system in this country that somebody can get murdered and the murderers never brought to justice? They just get to walk. But that's the way our system works here. And as for Delphi, that's another one that should have set off the alarm bells in the cult members over there. To accuse me and accused Fireman John of having anything at all to do with the murder of those two children is a disgrace. It's an insult to the children. It's an insult to the family. It's an insult to the city of Delphi that Tim Holmseth and his cult members would make that kind of a statement. They have all kinds of evidence against this guy. He lived less than a mile from the murder scene. He worked at a store even closer than that. And he was seen there. And he admitted to being there. His gun was found. And the shells matched the gun that were found at the scene of the crime. I mean, come on. He knew the family. He developed pictures for the family. And he's local. He knows that bridge in the path. They had said from the beginning of the investigation that it was a local person responsible. And you have this Keegan character that even had contact with one of the teenagers almost right up to the day they were murdered. And he has confessed to multiple crimes involving child pornography. And it's always been my opinion that more than one person probably took part in that. Because how in hell do you keep two teenagers from bolting? You know, just hoofing it out of there, dodging and weaving, praying that the guy's not a very good shot. Something kept those two girls there. Number one, they knew the guy. He's known those teenagers since almost the day they were born. It's a small town. Delphi is a very small town. So everybody knows everybody. So, for whatever reason, this guy just decided to go out and do what he did to these two children. And was somebody else there? Maybe. Maybe it was Keegan. Who knows? But there is going to be a trial. And the facts in the case are going to come out. All this discovery that the Delphi authorities have is going to come out in court. And a jury will decide what happens to this guy. You know, does it get acquitted or does it not? Does it get convicted of a lesser crime or does it not? That's going to be a trial a lot of people watch. Because it was, it grabbed the attention of the entire country, if not parts of the world. And it's like the Casey Anthony case. Children were killed under very gory and dramatic situations or circumstances. And so people want to see justice done. They want to see what in the hell happened to these two girls and why. And if it's this Allen character, why did he do it? What possessed the man to kill these two nice young ladies? Why does anybody do anything like that? There's some strange cases here in Central Florida, down in Polk County. Some guy killed his son with an angle grinder. And if any of you people know what an angle grinder is, a guy turned on the angle grinder and just went to town on his son, his 16-year-old son. And his grandfather had to walk in on that. This is the kind of stuff that's happening. We've got a case down here, again in Polk County. A woman killed her children. And this is one of these things like Neely Blanchard. The mother was ordered to give custody of the children to the father. And she more or less said, well, if I'm not going to have these kids, neither can he, and she killed them. Less than a month ago. These are the kind of cases I'm looking into down here to possibly cover the trials. There's a lot of violence going on right now, and a lot of violence against children. This is what's bad about all this. And it's being done by children or by parents. This is a family thing that families are killing each other. We have children killing children. They get a hold of a gun that belongs to the parent. The parent didn't safeguard the gun, so what happens? The sibling gets killed. Bam. It's, I don't know. I suppose, they say this stuff has always happened, but now in this modern age of instant communication and the internet, we're beginning to find all this stuff out. But it's just, I don't understand it. Why on earth would somebody kill a child and it'd be their own child? A father, a mother killing their own child. This is not new. We had that case where the woman drove her kids into the ocean and drowned them. Same deal as something that had to do. She just had issues in her life and decided, screw it. She went and drove her kids into the ocean and killed them, drowned them. And it's correct, Rebecca. It's every damn day. You can get on all these true crime boards like Web Sleuth, and it's time and time and time and time again. A child is being murdered or abused by their family. Most of the murders that take place against children or abuse against children in this country are done by a family member or a guardian, not a stranger. This may be the situation up in Tennessee with the case of the missing child up there. Still haven't found out what happened to that child. There's a very good possibility that someone that knew the child, family member, or something like that, got killed. Will we get the answers? Someday, maybe. But it is not going to be by Tim Holmseth or any of these clowns over there on Telegram or BitChute. It's going to be professional law enforcement that gets the answers. Tim Holmseth is doing absolutely nothing for anybody but himself, and he's making a fortune doing it. And it's people like this woman that are enabling him. You would think that she would have the common sense to see that she's going down the wrong road. But no. And she's had some rather strange behaviors. I mean, it's alleged that she got into phone sex thinking that it was Tim Holmesett. She bragged about it. There's even a recording of it. Why in hell would somebody put something like that out in public to be humiliated? But that's what she did. She cell-phoned herself. So, but it's a situation where, we're going to wake up tomorrow morning and this idiot will have put something on a blog about me again, about Whitey Bulger again. Or she's going to call the authorities again and saying that I'm Whitey Bulger, that the FBI spent millions upon millions of dollars to completely wipe out the Whitey Bulger identity and come up with this life history of William K. Murtaugh from Elmira, New York, and create 73 years worth of records, which is something they don't do on witness protection, by the way. You know, I'm going to be 73 in October 10th, right about a month from now. And in this age of computers and technology, anyone can get on Ancestry.com or been verified, or even if they're a professional, they can use background services people and pretend that they're screening an employee or something and find out exactly who I am. And they're going to find out that I am not, nor have I ever been, Whitey Bulger. Well, of course I don't look it, but that's not going to convince these people because the truth is not their goal. Their goal is to harass, intimidate, and stalk. You know, this woman lives in a foreign country. There's no possibility that we'll ever meet except maybe in court. How in hell does this woman come up with this stuff? Maybe it's that drink she was drinking. That maybe she had several of those drinks and these ideas come into her head. These alcohol infused drinks. It's a possibility. And why? Why me? See, this is the thing that's confusing about all this. I run a blog. I have 7 people watching the blog. 7 people. What is there about a blog or, a YouTube channel with 7 people on it? And even if people repeat watch this after it's posted to YouTube, I maybe get 50 or 100 views. And it's interesting because there's people on YouTube that have million subscribers, 50,000 subscribers. Even Beasley has like 100 and some odd thousand people. They aren't attacking him. They're praising him because he put Tim Homestead on the air. Not in the way that Tim Homestead is saying, by the way. I mean, yeah, the reporter interviewed Beasley, but there's the circumstances of that interview are not what Tim Homestead says it was. And Tim Homestead says, "Oh, a CBS cameraman took pictures." Where's the picture of the CBS camera? If I'm going to make the claim that CBS affiliates cameras are taking a picture of me, I'm going to take a picture of the CBS camera or the cameraman wearing a CBS hat. Something to prove that I was photographed by a CBS camera. Timmy didn't do that. The CBS reporter was not on the scene of that gathering. It was Beasley was there. Now Beasley and the reporter have a relationship, just like Levi Page had a relationship with Nancy Grace, and that's how he got on HLN because he knew Nancy Grace. He was invited on the show as a guest, but he didn't work for HLN. He was just a guest, which makes Tim Homestead mad because he cannot get on HLN. They won't let him. He got thrown out of CNN because he tried to get on the air over there. They said, "Get the hell out of the building." Well, that's the point of this whole thing, Rebecca. Timmy is a pathological liar. He is addicted to lying. He cannot tell the truth. He has not told the truth since he was a kid that got caught setting fires in the driveway. He's lied about everything. And Tim Homestead is not his birth name. And except for one time when he slipped up and admitted it, he has never mentioned the fact that his original name at birth was Lawrence Hoff. Same name he gave to his son, Hoff Homestead. And this is a fact. You can go up to State River Falls, Minnesota, or maybe over to Dakota or a couple other places up there, and there are people who will tell you that Tim Homestead is, in fact, Lawrence Hoff. It was an open adoption, and it's widely known that there was an arrangement made for his adoption. You know, I have no fault. I don't fault people that have been adopted. A good friend of mine in high school was adopted. And both him and his brother were adopted because the parents couldn't have children, so they adopted. It's a good thing. But in Holmes's case, there's something weird going on because he never talks about his birth parents. The Holmeses are not his birth parents. They're his adoptive parents. So, but there's something in his background where he absolutely is incapable of telling the truth. He has got to lie about everything. He's got to embellish everything. He he does not want to be ordinary like me, unimportant like me, just somebody going through every day, living their life, doing their thing. He's got to lie. He's got to say he's a war correspondent. He's got to say that he solved the finders, that he solved the Epstein, that he solved this, that he solved that. He's this very special, self glorified individual, and he brags constantly about who he is. And that's the key to understanding him. It's the fact that he has to brag about himself. He has to be important. He takes pictures in front of boats. He goes to the Trump rallies. He can't go to the Trump rally, go in and attend the rally and cheer for Trump and be one of the crowd. He's got to be outside figuring out a way to get attention so he can make something out of nothing. Instead of being just one of 100, 200, 2,000 people supporting Donald Trump by walking around with a shirt on that says never surrender, he's got to make it something special to him. And that's what he did in that interview. It was all about him. A little bit about Trump, but always about him. It's always going to be that way. Now, I sincerely doubt that the people over there will ever recognize the degree to which Tim Holmes said that's lying. I really don't think they care. These people believe a lot of the hogwash that Tim Holmes talks about anyway. He's preaching to the choir. He's got his own little church there, and people say he was a messenger from God, that, they worship him like a deity. To the extent where one of his disciples has phone sex with someone that she believes is him. And they send the money, a dozen avenues for money. Tim Holmes once wrote against Joel Osteen getting all this money to buy cars, airplanes, houses. And Tim Holmes is starting the same thing. He's begging for a $40,000 car. He's begging for expenses to drive around and take pictures of buildings and get on TV with a local reporter. And in fact, it was actually a YouTube channel. But he got a TV personality to talk about him, to talk about what a moron he was. That's the funny part about all this. Tim Holmset brags about being on this TV station with this guy, bragging about the fact that, I got my T-shirt on there. Never surrender. I'm a war correspondent and all this. And they have an interview, the reporter and Beasley have an interview with each other, and they called him a moron. They said the guy's an idiot. And Tim doesn't care. He puts the stuff on his channel. And the people apparently don't care. They didn't see the fact that the reporter called him an idiot. And that, Beasley went out and did interview after interview after interview and called it a YouTube disaster. But that's how ignorant he is. He doesn't care what's said about him as long as he is the center of attention. And that's why they come after me, because they want me to give them some attention. And the thing I don't understand is I'm small potatoes. I have a YouTube channel with 6 people on it. What kind of impact does he think I'm going to have with a YouTube channel with 6 people on it? I mean, give me a freaking break. I mean, Beasley's got 100 times more influence, 1,000 times more influence. He's established. And Tim won't go near him with a 10-foot pole. And some of these other people. There's this Patriot guy that writes about him. And Tim doesn't go after him. It's just little old me. I must be an easy target or something. But that's that's the way it goes. Tim Holmes says it's gonna keep making the money and money and money and money, and it's like High Command says, got to get paid, because that's what it's about here. In the end, it's all about the money. And the funny thing about all this is I don't think Timmy's getting all of it. I don't think he's getting half of it. They are collecting vast sums of money, and Timmy is still living in a car. And it's not the $40,000 car that he wants. It's the same car. He tried to hide the fact. Somebody got creative with the latest videos of him driving that car around. They got these black lines going across the top and the bottom so that you can't see the car. They don't want you to see the car because it's the same car. It's not a $40,000 car. Yet people are pouring money into the coffers so they can get him his $40,000 car. And if he gets the $40,000 car, the excuse is going to be, I can't show you the car because then everybody will know what it is and they can assassinate me. But Tim Holmsath goes to a public park where there's 1,000 people with cameras, clickety, 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 because it's Donald Trump. And someday his image is going to be on a random social media page, Twitter, Instagram, somewhere, in the same car that he's driven, that 2012 Nissan Rogue. And he doesn't realize there's people that have seen him. He's not hiding. He doesn't have bodyguards around him. He's got Randy Erickson, but they are either in Timmy's car or in one of her cars. But they are not acting like people that are under witness protection. If you're under witness protection, you don't go to a Trump rally with a shirt on that says never surrender, put your real name out there, and say, I'm Timothy Charles Holmsath. I'm a war correspondent. I'm this, I'm that. That's not how witness protection works. And these people believe this shit. That's what's so funny about it. Or at least they pretend to. But, hell, these people want to be this gullible and get grifted like that, knock themselves out. I go over there and read all these conspiracy theories and I get the big laughs out of it. And I'm going to get a big laugh when I get my hard copy of the nefarious network activities that this moron sent to the state of Florida. And I'm going to go through it line by line by line. And I'm going to go through it with the state attorney's office in Orlando, Florida, to figure out how we are going to charge this woman with a criminal offense. Because she's a liar. She's as much of a liar as Tim Holmsath. She is completely incapable of telling the truth. And so now, see, she has now involved herself with a major murder case here in the state of Florida. She has turned herself into a public figure. She has turned herself into a self imposed witness in relation to this murder. So she can't whine about being stalked or about being abused or anything like that. She has inserted herself in this case, a major murder case. She has made herself famous, a public figure. So this is where we're at. So the next time I come on, which is probably going to be a week from now or whatever, unless they pull a rabbit out of their hat over there in uh, nowhere land, because I'm sure when they get wind of what I did over here, they're going to whine about it again. And this Whitey Bulger thing will come in and we'll have Channel 6 on again and all this stuff. But she asked for it. I have ignored this woman for a long time. I've hardly mentioned her. If I mentioned her, I used her IBT. I haven't mentioned her legal name. I haven't put a picture of her up here. But she just, you know, the day she put that nonsense in the state court records in regards to the Neely Blanchard trial, she got my attention. And it's the old expression, be careful what you ask for. She asked for my attention. She got my attention. She's going to have to live with my attention because I am on very sound legal ground to thoroughly investigate this woman. That's, you know, she wants to be on the receiving end of an investigation, then that's what she's going to get. It's going to be the truth. It's going to be backed up with actual facts. It's not going to be speculation about her being a female version of Whitey Bulger. It's going to be about the truth. And I don't think she's going to like the truth, especially what I have found out so far. So stay tuned. Please like, subscribe, hit the notification button, and share. And yeah, Lori's free to make clips, and everybody else is free to make their little clips if they want. Uh, Sharing is sharing. So thank you for your attention to my friends out there. Stay tuned. Have a good one. And we'll see you again down the road. So long.